In a decisive nighttime operation, Russia's Zapad group of forces struck a blow to the Ukrainian Armed Forces, AFU, in the Kharkiv region. Utilizing reconnaissance drones, Russian forces identified and targeted Ukrainian armored vehicles and troop movements attempting a rotation at their combat positions. Once the Ukrainian militants arrived at the landing sites, Russian scouts launched a surprise drone strike, swiftly eliminating the combat vehicles and neutralizing AFU troops who tried to flee. This latest defeat marks another setback for the embattled Ukrainian military, which has struggled to hold the line as Russian forces continue their relentless advances. The incident underscores Russia's growing dominance on the battlefield, especially in key regions like Kharkiv, where Ukrainian defenses are increasingly stretched thin. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been touring Europe in an effort to secure more military aid, continuing his diplomatic blitz as his forces face mounting losses.
This is not the topic of our discussions, any ceasefire with other allies, and we didn't speak about it. I saw in media something that today was a lot of information that I came to speak about ceasefire. No, it's not right. I don't know where Russia works a lot with media, with disinformation, so it's understandable. But thank you.
Late October 10th, Zelensky met with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni in Rome, marking one of several stops on his European tour. The Ukrainian president is pushing a so-called victory plan, which he claims will pave the way for a just end to the war with Russia. Zelensky's diplomatic campaign has taken him to key European capitals, including London, Paris, and Berlin, where he has sought to rally continued support from NATO allies. He outlined Ukraine's military, financial, and humanitarian needs to European leaders, many of whom have pledged long-term support.
First of all, that is up to the allies, the individual allies, to decide how weapons they deliver into Ukraine can be used. Legally, that is possible, because legally Ukraine is allowed to use its weapons if they can hit targets in Russia, if these targets present a threat to Ukraine. But whether individual allies do that, that's in the end also always up to individual allies. Of course, we discussed this. I was last week in Kiev, we discussed it today, but in the end it is up to the individual allies.
Italy's Meloni reaffirmed her country's commitment to Ukraine, both in terms of military aid and in the future reconstruction of the war-torn country. Yet, as Zelensky makes his rounds abroad, cracks are beginning to show in his domestic narrative. A captured Ukrainian soldier, Viktor Isayev, recently spoke out, claiming that the promises of his president are nothing but empty words. Isayev, who was forcibly conscripted despite having a deferment, revealed the brutal reality of the Ukrainian military's recruitment efforts.
So-called mobilization has resulted in people being caught on stopovers, checkpoints, and on buses and trains. There was a 5-minute medical exam, and then you're sent straight to the front line. No one cares about the life of a soldier. No one needs us. Zelensky's words about fighting for every human life are not true.
Isayev's testimony highlights the growing disillusionment within the Ukrainian ranks, particularly as Russian forces continue to make inroads. The contrast between Zelensky's assurances to the international community and the grim reality faced by Ukrainian soldiers on the ground is becoming increasingly stark. Despite his diplomatic efforts, Zelensky's tour comes at a time when Russia is solidifying its military position. NATO's upcoming Steadfast Noon nuclear exercise, set to involve 13 nations and 60 aircraft, adds further tension to the equation, with NATO officials insisting the drills are aimed at deterrence. The exercise, scheduled to begin next week, will take place around 900 kilometers from Russia, with Moscow having been duly informed. As NATO reinforces its readiness, President Putin has shifted Russia's nuclear doctrine, further discouraging Western support for Ukraine. Putin's strategic adjustments have only added to the pressure on NATO and the West to carefully calibrate their responses, while avoiding actions that could escalate the conflict. With Zelensky crisscrossing Europe in search of aid and his soldiers facing a grim fate on the front lines, the gap between rhetoric and reality grows wider by the day. The once celebrated Ukrainian president now finds himself in an increasingly precarious position, both domestically and internationally, as Russia tightens its grip on the battlefield and his soldiers question the very promises he continues to make. Russia appears to have damaged part of a Ukrainian Patriot air defense system deployed in central Ukraine, using Iskander-M short-range ballistic missiles. The attack targeted the air defense system in the Dnipropetrovsk region, but Ukrainian officials insist the battery remains functional despite the damage. According to a statement released by the Russian Defense Ministry, the strike was directed at a Ukrainian Patriot missile battalion stationed near Pashena Balka, a village southwest of the city of Dnipro. Moscow claimed the attack destroyed key components of the system, including an AN/MPQ-65 radar station, a control cabin, and 2 missile launchers. Russia also stated that several Ukrainian soldiers were killed in the strike. Footage shared by Russian officials purported to show the precision strikes on the air defense system, though independent verification of the footage has not been possible. The Iskander-M missiles, known for their ability to evade interception, were reportedly used in the attack.